Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone, wherever you are. So, today our first guest speaker is Morag Mathieson. It is my honor to introduce Morag. Morag Mathieson, DTM, past international president for the 2023-2024 term. She's a native of Scotland who reside in Germany. She was the second international president from Europe and the first woman from outside North America to hold the organization's highest position. Morag joined Toastmasters in 2006 and is a member of I'm sorry, Elegant Toastmasters Club. She held the Distinguished Toastmaster designation before becoming international president. She held various leadership roles, including District 59's Lieutenant Governor, Education and Training. Now it is a Program Quality Director, Region Advisor, and International Board Member. As an international president, her focus included releasing hidden leaders and adapting to the post-pandemic environment. Her popular phrases, never close the circle. In other words, don't leave anyone out. Make sure everyone feels welcome and included in Toastmasters events and activities. And helping people to make tomorrow better than today. Reflect Morag's emphasis on helping others, whether it is checking in with a friend who looks discouraged, offering a useful speech evaluation to a fellow Toastmaster, or leading in a manner that ensures members feel heard. Morag earned a Master of Business Administration. She is a professional development consultant in Germany. She worked as a long-time manager and executive in the pharmacy industry in Scotland and Northern Ireland, managing strategy, service development, and business growth. She also served on the board for the Southern Germany chapter of USA Girl Scouts overseas, overseeing finance. Please help me welcoming to the District 100 Learning Lab, Distinguished Toastmaster, past International President, Morag Mathieson. Today, she is going to talk about membership retention, keep coming back. Floor is yours, Morag.
Thank you very much for such a lovely welcome. I really appreciate that. And thank you to those of you who are able to put your screens on. We are a small group today, so I'd like to work through this. I'll share my thoughts with you, and I'll invite you to share your thoughts at various points on our way through. Retaining members, it's a huge, huge topic. And organisationally, it's something that as a board member, we would have talked about quite a bit, about how we keep our members. Typically, the average percentage of retention across the organisation doesn't change much from year to year, usually around 50 to 55% retention. However, the difference in individual clubs can be quite marked. And so that makes it a really important topic for all of us, but especially when we think about our clubs. As you heard in the introduction, my home club is called Erlangen Toastmasters. And this photograph was taken when our club was 11 years old. Our club is almost about to celebrate its 20th anniversary in January. My association with the club came really in very early days. The club chartered in January, and I went to my first meeting in March. When people ask me, why did I join? There's a very simple answer: because someone asked me to. But the real answer is I was looking for my motivation for joining was to look for connections and fun, to make friends and to settle into a new community because I had just moved to Germany. And certainly my objectives were fulfilled very quickly in meeting people and having fun. That happened right away. If you were to ask me today, Morag, you've been a member now for over 19 years. Why do you stay? And why do you stay in this club? I would tell you it's not simply to meet people and have fun, although every meeting I go to, I do meet people and I do have fun. But I stay because of those friendships that I've formed over that time, because of the community that we've built. And I love seeing people grow and develop. And being a part of a Toastmasters club allows me to share in the development of others as they share in my development. And also because there's always something to learn. When I went to that very first meeting looking to meet people and have fun, I recognized immediately this was a place where people were learning things. And being committed to learning myself, I thought, I want a piece of that. I want to be a learner in this place too. And I still see it today. There is always something new I can learn. From the club banner that you see in the picture that was taken all those years ago, you'll see a lot of banner ribbons showing that this club has been successful in the Distinguished Club programme and that many, many members of the club have held leadership positions outside the club, whether as area or division directors, and some of us have also gone on to be district leaders in the trio or also international leaders of one sort or another. I remember that event that day when I handed over the ribbon to the club president, and this was when I was newly elected to the board in 2017. And he looked at the banner and he laughed and he said, Morag, I think most of the ribbons on this banner have got something to do with you. And I said, well, I'm not going to apologise for that. Because what I think these ribbons show are that this is a club that raises up people. It raises up people to be more than they thought they could be. And it provides opportunities for people to learn and grow. And if that means I'm involved in collecting ribbons, then I'm okay with that. You might think it sounds like we're a very successful club. Well, this is our dashboard from June 30th this year, and you get to decide if we are a successful club. When the club chartered in January 2006, by June that year, we were distinguished. And then from July 2006 until now, the club has been President's Distinguished for each one of those 19 years. Were we successful? Well, it depends on the metrics you look at. If you look at last year's metrics, you'll see that we recruited 12 new members. And that sounds pretty good. But then you'll see that if we hadn't lost any members, we wouldn't be sitting at 31 members on June 30th. We would have been at 40 members. So over the course of the year, we actually lost 9 members. Now, in some clubs, that would be a cause for major concern, depending on the size of your club to start with. But also, it can be very frustrating if you've spent lots and lots of effort recruiting people to then find you've now got 9 spaces. We were not worried by this in the club, and that might sound like a strange thing to say. We were not worried because when people don't renew, we always check in to find out what's going on with them, to make sure that we know where they all are. So for every one of those 9, we can account for where they are. Some transferred to other clubs. Some were in new life situations and just couldn't do it anymore. While others had moved country And that's a pretty good reason for not coming, although the club is hybrid. So technically, if the time zone worked, then maybe they could have come to the meeting. Many clubs focus their efforts on recruiting new members, and we do have to do that all of the time. But if you want a truly quality club, we have to put in effort to keep our existing members, because aiming to retain those members is a way of keeping our top talent and of limiting our turnover. And we do need that body of members who have worked the programme inside and out, because when we have that, that can often help attract other people to the club, because they see something there. It's not that everyone is just new. That can be exciting and dynamic, but it's also good to have emerging leaders and established talent together. And for sure, it's an ongoing process. And in the club, to keep that going, we have to help our members keep achieving their goals, to make it fun and engaging for them. A little bit of information. Every year, Toastmasters International World Headquarters does an alumni survey. They survey all the people who've left and ask all sorts of information from them, like, would you recommend Toastmasters to someone else? If your circumstances were different, would you rejoin? And of course, the big thing we all want to see, why did you leave? What happened? And you'll see here the top reasons are those personal situations, health, work, family, or time constraints. I simply don't have the time to fit this in. And what that tells us is that most people don't leave because they don't like the education programme, or they don't like the organisation, or even their club. We can't do much about those top reasons for leaving, but we can do something about our club and helping our members and helping each other to get the most out of the Toastmasters experience in the club. I don't know about you, but I'm Scottish and I like value for money. So I want to get the most that I possibly can out of my Toastmasters membership, because I see my membership as an investment in myself. I want all of my fellow members to get the most out of their experience also. And that's why I love the quote from Helen Blanchard, the first woman to be president of Toastmasters, that if you get all you can get out of Toastmasters, then you'll never get out of Toastmasters. And I think that's true. I see myself as we describe ourselves, there's a number of my friends and we describe ourselves as lifers, because we can't imagine the day comes when there would be nothing left to gain. I don't know how you feel, but I do know that some of you have been a member for a long time. And I wonder if you would share why you stay. Any of you would like to share that? Feel free to unmute and just share.
Mm. Mm.
Simone, I see you just unmuted there.
Yes. Okay. Hello, Morag. Hello. Hi, everyone. I say I've been in Toastmasters for over 14 years, and personally, I'm still improving in all kinds of ways. For example, I've just recently realized I'm not very good at doing characters in my speeches. So something new I'm working on. And then a big part of why I stay also is that I love helping others, because I've learned all this stuff in Toastmasters. I've grown as a person, as a leader, and I see other members, newer members or other members looking for mentors or coaches, and I always put my hand up to help. And it's just so rewarding personally. It's fantastic feeling to be able to contribute to somebody else's growth as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And that's the great thing, isn't it? When you understand what drives you, your purpose, your why in things, then it is easier to see how you can contribute. So I love to see people grow and develop, and I'm very happy to help people find their way. It's something that I'm really encouraged by and inspired by when I see what other people do and get to watch them from the sidelines, cheering them on with all of it. Bob.
Let's share. I've been with Toastmasters about a year and a half now. And I've already made the decision I'm not going anywhere for a while because it's been a fascinating journey, I might add. I was with the National Speakers Association for 20 years or more, and then I got old and was not going out speaking in that environment for a long time, and I missed it. And Toastmasters, I had been recommending people to check Toastmasters for years. I was aware of it and it was a good place to send people. Very few of them ever followed up on it, but at least we can take credit for doing it. But for me now, it is a growth period because Toastmasters looks at different parts of a speech, of a presentation I mean, I've never gotten an eval where somebody said I used too many ahs or ums. And I may have, but I mean, that was never in the eval. So you never got any real feedback, except they will tell you that the room was too hot or the room was too cold or any of other things of which you had no control. Uh, so Toastmasters has provided for me just that opportunity to stay active and alert. I mean, I'm at 82 years old, and have been around the block a few times, for sure. Uh, and I want to share some of that, some of those experiences, and learn along the way. Because my alternative would be to go to the senior center and we could talk about our bowel movements. Um, but I have no interest in doing that. So Toastmasters has been great for me. And I'm big on that, the idea of the retention and how we can do more of that. And for my thinking is that we really have to look at the people as they come in and make sure we understand what they want to get out of Toastmasters. Because it's an easy trap to fall into to assume everybody wants what we want. And that's not necessarily true. And to the extent that I can help deliver that, I'm sticking around for a while, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. I think you make such an important point there when you say members' goals. I think that's absolutely critical. What is it that people actually want? What did they come for? And how can we help them achieve that? And retention doesn't begin when you get to a renewal period. Retention begins on the day a person joins, because that's such an important moment right from the beginning, how we build them into the community that helps them to put down roots in the community and also to grow in the things that they want to grow in. Talking of goals, this is a slide that may be a little hard to see. I had to kind of screw my eyes when I looked at it. This is from a survey by World Headquarters of members. They look every year at members' goals. And here are broadly categorized the goals. And you see the big things. Wouldn't be any surprise. Goals: building confidence and becoming a more effective speaker as the two top reasons what people are looking for when they come to Toastmasters, and then all of the other things that follow. But it's quite different, the support you'd provide to somebody who is building confidence to someone who is coming for developing motivation strategies. I think a little bit different there. But all of that, I mean, although there's the whole structure of the organization, the key building block is the club. And even as international president, my most important thing was to get to my club meeting whenever I could, because that's really where the magic happens. And that's where those decisions about staying or leaving and so on are made, in the club space. we think about our club mission, which says we provide a supportive and positive learning experience, which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. I think that just sums up exactly what we'd want to be able to help people. So if we get the atmosphere right, the environment, if the way we speak to each other, if the way we deliver evaluations creates that supportive and positive environment and create supportive and positive experience, then members are much more likely to feel comfortable to work on and develop their communication and leadership skills, which are always bolstered by the evaluations we give. And then from that pointing out of how wonderfully someone has done something or how much they've progressed, then we really see that growth in self-confidence and personal growth. And when I think of this club mission and I think about that result of getting it right, I think of a member of my home club. He was a member, he's not a member now, but he was a member maybe about 10 years ago in the club, a young man called Joe. And he came and he was just very shy, really lacking confidence, but he had decided he wanted to get over his issues and really work on himself. So he was committed in himself. And he came and he gave his icebreaker, took roles in the meeting, but you could see every time there was anxiety, a little bit of anxiety there. And maybe we can identify with that on some level. There came the point when it was the club contest, and my home club has this tradition where for our table topics contest, it is if you are not one of the role takers, as in a judge or a timer, whatever, then you're a contestant and everyone competes. And we just have great fun with it. It's a real fun evening. And he was one of the contestants. And I was the contest chair that night. And when I got the results from the chief judge, I looked and Joe was going to be the winner of the table topics contest. And I was so thrilled for him. And when I was watching his face as I announced the result, and what happened from that moment was this exponential growth of confidence that somehow or other he had achieved something that he never imagined he'd be able to do, but he'd done it. And he'd won fair and square. He had good competition, but he had won fair and square. And he carried on. He was a member with us for in total, I think about 4 years in total in the club. And then he felt he'd got what he needed and he was moving on to do other things. And he visits occasionally. And I think that's a lovely thing when you can have that relationship with people. And I think that club mission also shows us why staying in Toastmasters is a good thing. Because every time we deliver on the mission, we allow opportunity for people to stay and for people to keep growing. And I think that's, as we said earlier, as Bob mentioned earlier, that focus on members and their goals is really important because they can choose to do anything with their time. So why should they join our club meetings? Hopefully, it's because they find value and worth in those meetings. In our clubs, we cannot control the unexpected events, but we can ensure members are committed to their goals, they understand what's available to them, and that they are encouraged along the way. And I love this diagram. These are 4 pillars of key influences that are believed to keep us in Toastmasters, to enhance our membership retention. And 4 good reasons for staying in Toastmasters: education, where we help people to learn and grow through our Pathways education programme; the environment, where we ensure that everyone feels welcomed and has a sense of belonging; for enrichment, where we include specific programming for members to learn from people, sometimes from outside of the club. and empowerment, where we provide opportunities for members to continue to grow after achieving their original goals. We'll look at these in a little more detail, I think. Education first. So people join Toastmasters mainly to enhance those communication and leadership skills, but there are many ways for that to happen. So we have to make sure that any guests who come to our club and are thinking of joining it, and new members especially, know about the opportunities. And of course, the first thing to talk about is pathways. Our education program that has this variety of paths and projects that can be fully customized for the individual. So they work at their own pace in a structured way that has those moments of achievement, milestones along the way, the completion of levels and so on, so they can learn to achieve their individualized goals. And I think one of the ways in which we can enhance education and pathways to help people feel more grounded and rooted in it all is to explore the program, the different paths that there are, and the types of projects. And I'll show you in a moment an overview of the DTM in a way that I think is really helpful. I remember when I first joined Toastmasters in my whole district, there were hardly any distinguished Toastmasters, hardly any at all. And to the point where it wasn't unusual to hear the question, what's a DTM, being asked? Because people just didn't really know. We were a young district and we didn't have many. And then came quite a lot of education around, mainly through the district, to help people understand what this was, why you might achieve it. And I think sometimes people leave without realizing the full extent of what is available to them. So do we really understand? Because then people can plan ahead and think about what they could do in the future and when, so that they're not left lost in some way because they just didn't know. There's also learning in partnership, where we practice and we get feedback. It's that doing things and then getting the feedback and discovering how we might do it next time if we get the opportunity next time. And I think of my first time as club president, I spent a lot of time reading handbooks and looking at websites, trying to work out how to be club president, because there were so many things I didn't know. It was new. And the next time I was club president was the year after I had been the district director in Europe. And it was a completely different experience. I learned again, but I needed less input. I had more confidence. I approached it in a different way. And to me, that's the beauty of experiential learning, when we take what we've learned and we can apply it and grow through ourselves. And there's also then leadership opportunities to think about, how do we engage people as club officers or on project teams in our clubs to keep them belonging and rooted in the club? And if we think about, there are some things at the moment going on where there's great skills we can learn to take outside of Toastmasters, like the club success plan, developing a plan for your organization and doing it in a safe environment in Toastmasters before you have to do it at work. Then thinking of the environment, our club isn't just, I said I would say about education, my apologies. So this is the overview of the DTM, and I really like this in that it builds up from the two paths, then those special types of projects that require more, and then of course the leadership pieces, and then your DTM project when you've done all of that and you reach that highest education award. And I think I quite like this slide because it's a very simple way through all of this, and it totally glosses over just how much work goes into becoming a DTM, but it gives that outline of what could be possible for people that they might want to set goals for and to achieve. And this is interesting, I think. This talks about, this is from Toastmasters International, this is for the program year just finished, talking about the number of completions of different levels in pathways. And if you look, the big hitters are level 1 and level 2, and then it drops off. One of the clubs here near me, they did a survey last year, about 18 months ago now, trying to understand why people were leaving their club. And they lost a lot of members last year in particular. So they were really concerned. And they noticed that their biggest drop off came between level 2 and level 3. And so a real big warning sign was when people completed their level 2, if they were not then beginning projects in level 3. That was a real indicator for them that maybe something wasn't right. And so they began to introduce interventions to try and help members get started on level 3. And they found if they could get people over that hump of just starting level 3, then they would carry on and work on the rest of their path. But there seemed to be some sort of psychological hump in going from level 2 to level 3. So if you see that in your club, if you notice that, when people finish level 2, then that's a great conversation. My club has a really social atmosphere. We go to the bar after club meetings and usually have food and drink together. And that's where most new membership applications are signed, is in the bar, because people have decided, but then we're okay to be with, as well as the educational side. And it's in that environment, I think, where you can ask those questions. Oh, congratulations on finishing your level 2. Have you decided how you're going to tackle the required project in level 3? Or have you thought about the electives? And those kind of things, really helping people to just think about it and have that conversation to help them over the hump, because the path structure changes a bit in levels 3, 4, and 5 compared to 1 and 2. And so it can seem a bit daunting for some people. And then on to the environment. So our clubs aren't just about learning, it is also about that feeling and that belonging. And as I said, my home club in particular, we've recognised that it's when you hang out with us socially that you're really finally making up your mind. You're going to be with us, and we keep people with us. And there's always a check-in of, have you seen so-and-so? They weren't at the last meeting either. So we try and know where our people are, not because we're crazy about a register of attendance, but because we care about people and we feel that we're part of one community together. And I think, when you think of going to a meeting as a guest, or when you join as a new member, there is always that kind of slight anxiety about, will you be warmly welcomed? Will you be able to belong? Will you settle in? Will your interactions with the others be encouraging and comfortable? And if we don't have the right feeling, then it's very hard to actually settle in and really grow. So if you think about physical aspects, the location is accessible for people with disabilities. We used to meet in the staff room of a school here, and it was on the upper floor of a building. And thankfully, there's big staircase up, beautiful staircase. But there was also an elevator, which was really important because we had one member of our club that could only walk with crutches, and actually getting up the stairs would have been impossible. So we had, and she wasn't a member when we chose that venue, but she was able to join us because it was accessible for her. And then any future decisions about venue, we have to think about that for people who are with us. Do you have the audiovisual resources available to you that you need in the environment? Because they change our impression of how we think and feel about the club. If there aren't enough seats, it's said that once a room is 70% full, new people will immediately think that it's too full, even though they could find a seat. Social aspects of the environment, how do we greet people? How warm is it? Is there a difference between being in and out? Are there actually meaningful conversations happening? Are we managing the bridge between online and on-site audiences if we have a hybrid setting? How are we bringing all of that together? And then the cultural aspect of the environment is really very important, especially greetings wise and how we deal with different cultures. We had some Muslim women in our club for a while, and it took a little bit for people to get used to. They didn't want to really shake hands with the men in the club, so we had to kind of work through how we would do that so that the environment was good for them to grow. And then the third of our pillars is enrichment. Some members want more than just the meeting. So how can you make that happen? Well, special events. One club that I belonged to last year, we had 4 special events with guest speakers, which was great for the members to experience something different. They're getting to listen to people they don't normally hear. Or at the last meeting, I was general evaluator and I brought in 3 guest evaluators so that our speakers don't just get used to the comfort of everyone who's in the club. Let's have guest evaluators and see how that shapes up and how we can just have a bit of a richer experience. Field trips, going outside your club. Here in our neighbourhood, some of the local clubs do a hike every year in September. And that's a lovely thing to do. It doesn't relate to anything Toastmasters. It's just a nice thing to do together and lets you build your connections in other clubs and you get to hear what other people are doing. If all we do is stay in our own room, then we get quite limited, I think, in terms of influence, what we're hearing and how we're being equipped. Celebrations, really, really important. My home club, part of our budget is a celebrations fund. And we've had a season of people having new babies, either members of the club or partners of members of the club having new babies. And we have a standard practice. It's a card and a teddy bear for every new baby. So we know how much that costs and we can roughly budget for that each year. And it's just lovely to see people or special milestones. We had a member complete a doctorate recently, and the club bought flowers for that member to say congratulations, something really special. And it just makes us feel so much better. And then the final part of enrichment is mentorship, having a strong mentor program. Enormously beneficial for both the mentors and the proteges. Because I don't know about you, but when I've been a mentor, I've learned as much from my protege as I'm sure they've learned from me over that time. And it builds the relationships in your club also. The fourth and final pillar is about empowerment. How are we helping our members to grow and to get more out of the programme? And we might think about stretch assignments and what we mean by stretch assignments, those speechcraft youth leadership programs, the things that will be part of the DTM if they were to decide to do it are a bit more demanding. One thing that clubs in this area do is when they want to hold their annual Moments of Truth session, they ask for a facilitator from another club to come. And that's really nice because then everyone in the club can participate in answering the questions and so on. And also it provides a facilitation opportunity for an experienced member from another club. And we get to experience Moments of Truth facilitated in many different ways because of that. It's never going to be the same each year. In terms of leadership, look beyond the club level for opportunities to hone leadership skills, whether that's in a formal role like an area division or a district leader role, or whether it's an assistant to one of those or part of a team there, is a great way for people to get valuable experience in many skills. And it's important for testimonials. Those members then bring back stories of how they've applied that Toastmasters learning, which is great PR, but great inspiration for others. So I have a question for you, which is, what do you think, what is it like for you to be in a club that has good retention? What would it look like? What would it feel like? Or what does it look like or feel like when you're in a club that has good retention? Elizabeth.
can speak to this because my home club, Hertfordshire Speakers, of which I've been a member for 15 years, having thought I was going to be there for 6 months. I think what it has a great feeling of there's fun, but there's something very solid about it. We have 4 DTMs in our club, but there's a sense of people who understand Toastmasters, who are passionate about Toastmasters, and people from whom others can learn. We've currently got about 40 members, influx of new people, and they all say the same thing. We like what we see. We think we can learn from this club. And I think that means a lot to the new people. We also have a strong mentoring program as well. So there's a lot for them to come and see and enjoy. And I love being a member of the club as well.
It makes a difference, isn't it, when you find joy
Yes.
in your club?
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, the important thing to think about is that retention is once you pay your first renewal, you are then being retained. And sometimes when we think about retention of members, we think about people who've been in 15, 20 years, but actually retention, even people who've only been there for 6 months, a year, are becoming the more seasoned members. Whenever someone newer comes, you are a more experienced member. So it's not just that you have to have been in for 25 years to be considered an experienced member, because of the nature of the program of learning by doing, and all that you bring with you. We all come with a different background into that space, into that club space. And I do think, if you have good retention, you have that little bit more experience and confidence in the room, and also the positive vibes that it brings to the space. One of the best things that ever happened to my home club was contest season. A good few years ago now, my husband and I joined Toastmasters on the same day, and we were regarded as probably some of the most experienced members in our home club. And it was coming up to contest season, and we were asked, would one of us be chief judge and the other be contest chair? And we had to say, I'm really sorry, we've planned to go off on vacation that week. We're not here. And the look of horror from the club president of the day of like, how are we going to manage contests? You're not here. And who are we going to get? And so we said, well, choose whoever would like to do it. We will mentor them. We just won't be there on the day. And that's what happened. And since then, we have occasionally been chief judge or contest chair, but not very often, because now suddenly we mentored other people to do those roles, and they have gone on to take them, and they have mentored other people after them. And so there is a greater depth of people who can. And sometimes it's a good thing when when the old timers like us are out of the way, and the less old timers get their moment to shine and do things. One program that I wanted to mention today is Moments of Truth, and it's recommended that every club does this at least once a year. And it has been around for a long time. It's definitely stood the test of time. As I said earlier, my home club is part of a group of clubs locally who have this model of guest facilitator. And the program looks at 6 different dimensions of club life. And you have the opportunity as club members to reflect on how these are going. And I think they all have an impact on retention within the club. And that's the great value of doing this. Even if we think we're doing it well, I think actually carrying out moments of truth can show us areas where, yeah, we're maybe doing okay, but could we do more? And being willing to listen to the voices of our members as we do this in improving things. And I think when we think of retention, all of these aspects matter. Would there be one I would pick out as more important than another? No. I think they're all equally important in terms of retention. But there may just be a need for a club to focus on one of these. So when we look at the feedback on the survey of it, we might just choose one area to work on to help us with member retention rather than trying to address everything. I think those were all of the things that I actually wanted to share with you today. I'm happy to have conversation if you want to have, you have any questions or comments. Would love to hear them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask my question?
Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. I am very interested in that figure, the 50 to 55% retention.
Yeah.
I've heard it quoted over many years. The question is, does TI have a target they would like? I know we'd love 100% retention, but I mean being realistic.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think really what to do if it isn't shifting. Because as I said, I've heard it so many years and it's always that band, 50 to 55%.
Yeah.
What can we do?
So I'm just looking for a number for you right now. If I can find it. I'm looking for the current strategic plan
Ah,
for the organization. Strategic plan 2024. There we go. Yeah, the strategic plan for the organization has the organization's goals in it.
yes.
And one of the goals in the plan, there are numeric goals for things. So is she looking at them? Here they are. And it is the goals that the board sets every year are for distinguished clubs, membership payments,
Yeah.
renewal rate, member satisfaction, net club growth, and pathways level completions. So there's a number set for all of those. And what is in the plan as renewal rate is what we would call retention. The board decided a few years ago to use the term renewal rate because the feeling of retention is it sounds a bit stagnant rather than renewal, which sounds a bit fresher. It's purely semantics of the word. It means exactly the same thing. And so the way that target is set is to increase 2% year on year. So there's not we've got to be 48%, got to get to 55, or there's not an actual number. So at the moment in the plan, it's set as 2% annually. I think it's 2%. Yeah, 2% annually to increase.
Okay.
It seems very hard to shift the number.
Yeah.
Because it has been that for years, around the 50% mark, 50, maybe up to 55. I think last year was 52.6, if I'm not mistaken, was the actual number.
If we benchmark with, say, Rotary and similar organizations, are they all about the same?
I don't know. I don't know.
You don't know. Okay.
Like.
Okay.
I don't even know if that's something they measure.
Yeah, I think they do. I was reading an article not long ago, but I don't remember what the number was. I'll have another look. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. If you find that out, I'd be really interested to know, Elizabeth.
I will. I'll share that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Morag. I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
I have a club that I used to be a member of many years ago. The club meets quite near where I live, and I was having a conversation recently with our club growth director, and he asked me, "Do you know, Simone, why this club, ABC, for example, has dropped from 31 members to 17?" And I said, actually, I do. I hear a lot of things about that club. Still know some people in there, and the thing is that we were talking before about the importance of having an encouraging vibe in the club, where people are encouraged to keep going, praise for doing well and all that kind of thing. Well, this club has lost that. It did once upon a time have that. And that was the reason why I actually stayed in that club for 5 years. And so the problem is it's created a rather toxic environment, unfortunately, I would say, has been growing in that club. And also sad to say that 3 of the most senior in terms of time in Toastmasters are part of the problem. They're not helping. Yeah. So I know the reasons for why the club is in the situation now. They've lost half of their membership overnight, basically. But how to help this club rebuild? And the only way it's going to be sustainable, I think, is if we can go back to that good vibe that the club used to have. So do you have any thoughts, or have you got any experience with dealing with like senior members who really should be better, but they're not?
Yeah, I have a couple of different experiences that really would be quite different. One is to bring in an external facilitator to do moments of truth in the club, so that it is all being collated and done by someone who's not in the club, who doesn't have a vested interest in anyone's opinion, and maybe even doing it as an anonymized survey separately. One year in my home club, we did this. Someone decided to run it as a business style project, doing it so it was all anonymous, and then did this beautiful presentation, TEDx style presentation of moments of truth to the club, which is really good. And that might help to just shine a light on what the issues are. If it comes with the mindset of how do we improve, it's got to come not just with this is the status, but how can we improve? What changes need to make? And even to the personal level, what changes do I personally need to make as I think about this? I have another experience of this when I was district director. We had one club where this was happening, and the president and the VP Ed were husband and wife, and they just constantly swapped roles. One year, one would be president, the other year, the next. And they had this stranglehold on the club, which then had been a great club. Lots of people were leaving. And basically, the area director locally, he actually worked to make sure that everyone who wanted to leave got another club. And we allowed the club to die because there was no willingness. The area director made all kinds of attempts to change things, to try and improve the situation locally. And this pair were just refusing to. And because so many people had left, the revolving door thing, they were left with very inexperienced people there who just looked to them for everything. And so in the end, the decision was made to let the club die. And that's a really hard decision to make. And if a club has to die, especially if members are leaving because they don't like that club, is there a way to get them to be somewhere else so they don't miss out on the experience? They can have the experience, just not there. But my preference would always be to try and resolve the situation and improve the situation for everyone. Because it isn't nice when you find out that your leadership hasn't helped and your leadership may have caused some of the problem.
Okay, thank you. That's a great idea. Things we can take action on. So
yeah,
good. I've got something to go back to our division director with. Thank you.
Let's hear how you go. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today, and I hope you found something useful in our time together. and something interesting, and I'm going to hand back to our Zoom 2.
Thank you, Morag. I really appreciate your being with us today, and I did a presentation. Also, I met Morag in Philadelphia, and it was great, and I really enjoyed meeting with you because I know you since 2020, because when I am that time I was a member of District 8. That's the way I got to know from my mentor RJ Stratton. That's the way I heard about you. So I'm very happy to meet you in person in Philly, and I had a great time to talking to you. So again, thank you so much for coming here and joining with us in District 100 Learning Labs, and we are very happy you are here, and thanks again.
Great.
Thank
Good
you.
job. Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Paul.
thanks so much.
Thank you, Morag. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Phil.